Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meier. Our top story: what would U.S. allies do if a crisis hits Taiwan? Washington wants answers. At the same time, Taiwan is rolling out a new powerful U.S.-made strike weapon. With tensions rising, Australia isn't making any early commitments. Officials say the decision will come, but only when the time is right.
Decision to commit Australian troops to a conflict will be made by the government of the day, not in advance.
And a look at Japan's stance as leaders weigh their options. The U.S. is deepening its cooperation with Indo-Pacific allies. Two separate largest ever military drills are underway, one in Australia, the other in Taiwan. That's happening as tensions with China continue to escalate. And Greenland's untapped minerals are drawing U.S. attention. That's as Washington seeking to break free from China's grip on rare earths. Washington is pressing allies like Japan and Australia to clarify where they stand if conflict erupts in the Taiwan Strait. At the same time, Taiwan is strengthening its defenses with advanced rocket systems amid rising threats from Communist China. Here's more.
Taiwan's military began deploying armored trucks with one of its newest and most precise strike weapons on Saturday. The vehicles with HIMARS, high mobility artillery rocket systems, are taking part in intensifying drills meant to showcase the island's determination to resist any Chinese invasion. This occurs as the Pentagon is urging Japan and Australia to clarify what role they would play if the U.S. and China went to war over Taiwan, according to a Financial Times report on Saturday. Elbridge Colby, the U.S. Undersecretary of Defense for Policy, has been pushing the matter during recent talks with defense officials of both countries, the report said, citing people familiar with the discussions. According to the newspaper, the reported request caught Japan and Australia off guard, as the U.S. itself does not offer a blank check guarantee to defend Taiwan. Colby said in an X post that the Department of Defense is focused on implementing the president's agenda, which includes by urging the allies to step up their defense spending and other efforts related to our collective defense. China views democratically governed Taiwan as its own and has intensified military pressure around the island over the last 5 years, staging a string of intense war games and daily naval and air force patrols around the territory. Taiwan rejects China's sovereignty claims, with its president saying only Taiwan's people can decide their future.
Australia is making it clear it won't commit troops ahead of time if conflict breaks out over Taiwan. This comes as the U.S. presses its allies to define their roles in a potential conflict with China. Australian officials say the decision on military involvement will be made by the government when the time comes, not before. Let's take a closer look.
Happy to say that
Australia will not commit troops in advance to any conflict, the country's defence industry minister said on Sunday. Pat Conroy was responding to a Financial Times report that the United States has been pressing allies on what they would do if a conflict broke out over Taiwan.
one, we don't engage in hypotheticals, we don't discuss hypotheticals, but secondly, the decision to commit Australian troops to a conflict will be made by the government of the day. Not in advance, but by the government of the day, and that's our position, and it's been long established.
China claims democratically governed Taiwan as its own and has not ruled out the use of force to bring the island under its control. Taiwan President Lai Ching-te rejects China's sovereignty claims, saying only Taiwan's people can decide their future. The U.S. does not offer a blank check guarantee to defend Taiwan, but it has been pushing allies to step up defense spending, saying it's part of President Donald Trump's America First agenda of restoring deterrence. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese stressed on Sunday that his country was considerably increasing defense spending. He told reporters that Australia supports the status quo on Taiwan and is against any unilateral action there.
We want peace and security in our region. We don't want any change to the status quo. That's Australia's position today. That was Australia's position last week. That's been a bipartisan position for a long period of time.
Albanese was speaking in Shanghai at the start of a 6-day visit to China that's likely to focus on security and trade. He watched on as Tourism Australia and Trip.com Group signed a deal to promote Australia as a premier tourist destination for Chinese travellers.
Besides Australia, reports say the Pentagon is also pressing Japan to clarify its stance on defending Taiwan. Which U.S. allies might be next in line for Washington's attention, and where do they currently stand on China's growing threats? We start with Japan, one of the U.S.'s closest allies in Asia. In response to Pentagon calls for clarity, Japan's defense minister echoed similar comments to Australia's. He said Tokyo will provide its legally grounded response only if a conflict actually breaks out. Despite diplomatic uncertainty, Taiwan's security remains critical to Japan. Both lie along the so-called First Island chain. This concept is viewed as a strategic barrier, key to containing China's military expansion and limiting its access to the Pacific Ocean. The chain also controls vital sea lanes crucial to Japan's trade and energy supply. At the same time, the U.S. alliance is ramping up readiness in the Indo-Pacific. Last Friday, top military leaders from the U.S., Japan, and South Korea met in Seoul, reaffirming their commitment to deter threats from China and North Korea. Japan and South Korea together host nearly half of all U.S. troops stationed overseas. Another key U.S. ally is the Philippines. The U.S. and the Philippines are bound by a treaty to defend each other in the event of war. The Philippines frequently faces tensions with Beijing over territorial disputes. Those tensions escalated after the U.S. deployed its Typhoon mid-range missile system to northern Philippines last April. The system, equipped with Tomahawk missiles, has a range of about 1,000 miles, putting much of China's southeastern coast within range. Tomorrow, we'll check in on some of the U.S.'s biggest allies in Europe and see how they might respond if tensions over Taiwan spark conflict between the U.S. and China. As tensions rise, two largest ever warfighting drills are underway, one in Australia and another in Taiwan. Australia's exercises began Monday, with participating nations conducting joint coordination and testing battlefield readiness. More than 35,000 troops from 19 countries are taking part in Australia's drills over the next 3 weeks. That includes nations like the UK, Germany, France, and Asian neighbors of China, Japan, the Philippines, and South Korea. Pacific Island states strategically important to the U.S., Papua New Guinea, Fiji, and Tonga are also joining in. Chinese surveillance ships have monitored Australian naval exercises before. Australia's defense industry minister says China is expected to keep an eye on this round of drills too. And in Taiwan, the largest ever live fire drill is entering its second week. The island's military began deploying one of its newest and most precise strike weapons on Saturday. The drill aims to demonstrate Taiwan's resolve against any potential invasion from Communist China. Vehicles carrying advanced U.S. HIMARS rockets were seen near Taiwan's central coast, just about 90 miles away from China's shoreline. These rocket systems have been used extensively by Ukraine against Russian forces. Amid rising tensions in the Taiwan Strait, a supermarket in Taipei held an air raid evacuation drill last week. The drill took place during Taiwan's largest ever annual military exercises called Hanquang. Here's more.
With the sound of an air raid siren, staff at the store quickly directed customers to the basement for shelter. This is a local supermarket chain in Taiwan that held civil defense drills in 3 of its stores.
This drill is not only focused on air raids, but also on earthquakes. These are all situations we must be ready for. This training is designed to protect our employees as well as our customers.
In addition to evacuation guidance, the drill also included scenarios where the public became agitated or felt unwell, prompting personnel to calm tensions and provide basic first aid.
It's not just about the government's efforts, it's also about the civil society. Most of the Taiwanese people, I think people all have the understanding that in the current circumstances, especially regarding all these different threats or different challenges or risks we face, I think we need to be more prepared in any kind of situation.
China has intensified military pressure around Taiwan over the past 5 years. To strengthen civil defense and disaster readiness, Taiwan's government has also called on more private companies to take part in the drills. Reporting from Taiwan, Joy Chu, NTD News.
The rare earth mineral race between the U.S. and China is heating up. A potential game changer has emerged on U.S. soil. A new mine in Wyoming opened its doors Friday. It's the first rare earth site in the United States since the 1950s. The mining company's CEO tells NTD's David Lamb what this means for the U.S.
In Wyoming, the first new rare earth mine in the United States in more than 70 years. Ahead of the Brook Mine's official opening on Friday, NTD spoke to Ramaco Resources CEO Randall Atkins.
What makes this project unique compared to other domestic mining projects?
Well, it's unique in a number of respects. This is the first time that rare earth has really been found in coal in sufficient concentrations to be commercially viable. So it's a really groundbreaking for really not only coal but rare earths, because they're found in something that's not radioactive like most other type.
Ramaco says the Brook Mine could provide major source materials needed for military technology, batteries, medical devices, and more. According to Ramaco, China currently holds a heavy concentration of these minerals, which makes this new mine a game changer for American independence.
We will be processing it domestically because, again, it's not radioactive, which is why most of the rare earths found in the United States, frankly, are shipped overseas. MP sells all of its rare earths in China because they're radioactive. And it will eventually, of course, all of them will be used domestically. So this is kind of a Team USA effort. And so ultimately, we may even go beyond just simply manufacturing oxides. We may take it all the way to making magnets and potentially even wafers for semiconductors.
He says they already started mining about a month ago, and they will develop materials to use in a pilot plant that will start this summer.
And then we would be in a position to sell commercial oxides probably by, I'd say, late 27 or 28. We may try to accelerate that process because, candidly, the government wants to accelerate the ability to get our nation on a sounder footing for supplies of rare earths.
Atkins believes this project will put Wyoming on the map as a rare earth capital, with the Brook Mine reportedly being the largest unconventional deposit in North America. David Lamb, NTD News.
The U.S. and the European Union are eyeing Greenland's massive untapped rare earth deposits. These minerals show up in everything from smartphones to fighter jets. The move follows a recent deal between Washington and Beijing to ease rare earth export restrictions. But despite the deal, the U.S. still appears determined to cut its reliance on China. China currently dominates the global rare earth supply chain. That's where Greenland comes in. It's not just rich in minerals, it's also strategically located between the U.S. and Europe. Both the U.S. and EU are looking to invest in Greenland's rare earth industry. The island also hopes to strike deals with them to break China's grip on rare earths and diversify its supply chains. Greenland's Minister for Business and Minerals says Chinese trade policies on rare earths have restricted their access to global markets. A critical mineral security expert at a U.S.-based think tank says China has been weaponizing its control over rare earths. Now it's a race to find new suppliers. The U.S. has already secured rare earth deals elsewhere, like the May agreement with Ukraine to access its mineral reserves. But tapping Greenland's resources won't be easy. About 80% of the island is covered in ice, and extraction costs are high. On top of that, Greenland has strict environmental protections. A Chinese-backed mining project was shut down in 2021 after Greenland banned uranium mining. Experts say that reflects Greenland's careful approach to granting access to its mineral resources. Coming up, Nvidia CEO is visiting China again, but U.S. lawmakers are issuing a sharp warning: steer clear of deals involving Beijing's military and intelligence agencies. 12 Hong Kong pro-democracy activists are appealing convictions under China's security law. The case has sparked global criticism over Beijing's clampdown on dissent. That and more in just a minute here on China in Focus. Welcome back to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meier. The White House and Congress are teaming up with a two-pronged strategy to push Russia toward a ceasefire in Ukraine. First, the White House has announced new tariffs on Russia. At the same time, Congress is moving to target those who fund Putin's regime. Our Washington correspondent Luis Eduardo Martinez has the details.
a turning point regarding Russia invasion of Ukraine is coming. For months, President Trump has tried to entice Putin to the peace table. He's left the door open regarding Russia. That door is about to close. Dick and I have got 85 co-sponsors of the United States Senate for congressional sanctions with a sledgehammer available to President Trump.
The Senate is ready to pass a sanctions package that would hit countries buying Russian energy like India, Brazil, and China with a 500% tariff if they continue financing Russia's war in Ukraine.
I think it's an important message to send, especially now, and I think it's leverage that we need and that, frankly, the White House needs in their negotiations with the Russians. So,
Senate Majority Leader John Thune has indicated that the bill, which has bipartisan support, could be voted on as early as this week and certainly before the August recess.
July is going to be the magic month for bone-crushing sanctions on Vladimir Putin. He better get ready because his economy, already on its heels, is going to be hit hard by these sanctions.
Putin's aims go well beyond Ukraine. And if we don't meet his aggression here, we're emboldening him, but tyrants across the world who will do such things. And it'll be a threat to the United States ultimately.
Senate Republicans introduced their sanctions package in April, but agreed to hold on a vote to coordinate with the White House for maximum impact.
There's definitely bipartisan support on it. Listen, the president is leading right now in foreign affairs. We see that right now that the leaders all over the world is looking towards President Trump.
The Senate has also proposed that the National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2026 include at least $500 million in long-term security assistance for Ukraine. The bill has not yet passed the Senate floor, but could signal continuing support for Ukraine that could push Russia to agree to a ceasefire. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Luis Eduardo Martinez, NTD News.
Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang is preparing to fly to Beijing on Wednesday, his second trip to China this year. But the plan is raising bipartisan concerns among U.S. lawmakers. Days ago, 2 U.S. senators sent a letter to Huang urging him not to interact with entities tied to the Chinese military or intelligence bodies. NTD's Flora Hua has more.
Huang's second China trip is happening just 3 months after his first. Microchip giant Nvidia plans to launch a new artificial intelligence chip designed for China later this year. A group of bipartisan senators expressed their concerns in a letter, saying Nvidia's chips could boost China's process of modernizing its military, and that could put U.S. national security at risk. Beyond that, high-end semiconductors have also become a major point of leverage in U.S. trade standoff with China. In April, the Trump administration doubled down on semiconductor export controls, banning more chips from being shipped to China. That includes a special type of Nvidia chip, specially made for export to China. It's a lower-end model designed to comply with U.S. export restrictions. Despite all the challenges, the company has been trying to maintain its access to the China market. According to an official report from Nvidia, China is the company's 4th largest market, despite U.S. export restrictions, accounting for 13% of the company's total sales. Nvidia spokesperson declined to comment on the CEO's upcoming trip. Something else to note, on Wednesday, Jensen Huang visited the White House to meet with President Trump and his team. That's the day Nvidia became the first public company to top $4 trillion in market cap. Flora Hua, NTD News.
12 Hong Kong pro-democracy activists filed an appeal Monday in a case brought under China's security law. The case spotlights Beijing's ongoing clampdown on dissidents and has drawn international criticism. Here's more.
Security was tight as 12 Hong Kong pro-democracy activists appealed their subversion convictions and jail terms on Monday. The appeal stems from the so-called 47 Democrats case, named for the number of activists who were arrested and charged with conspiracy to commit subversion in early 2021. The court eventually found all but 2 of the defendants guilty of organizing and holding an unofficial primary election in July 2020. Of the 16 Democrats who pleaded not guilty during the trial, 11 have decided to appeal, while another who pleaded guilty is appealing her sentence. The case has spotlighted Beijing's ongoing crackdown on dissent and drawn international criticism. Some countries, including the United States, have condemned the case as politically motivated. They are calling for the immediate release of the Democrats who were sentenced last November to prison terms of up to 10 years. The appeals are expected to take around 10 days and will also include a government appeal against the acquittal of one of the Democrats.
The world's largest economies have just 1 month to secure a lasting trade deal with the U.S. As businesses on both sides of the Pacific wait for negotiations to wrap up, Chinese exporters are rushing to ship orders now. Let's zoom in.
There's a fragile tariff truce in place right now between Beijing and Washington. Chinese exporters are capitalizing on this break by pushing out orders and seizing market share closer to home. This comes as Chinese producers face weak demand at home and harsher conditions in the U.S. The U.S. is where Chinese producers sell more than $400 billion worth of goods every year. New customs data reveals that Chinese exports regained momentum last month, outbound shipments rising nearly 6% year-on-year in June. This beat a forecast by Reuters and growth in May. Shipments to Southeast Asian nations were particularly strong, jumping nearly 17%. Exports to the U.S. grew about 32% month-on-month. But growth year-over-year remains negative. June was the first full month Chinese goods benefited from reduced U.S. tariffs. Now Beijing and Washington have until August 12th to reach a more permanent deal.
That's all for today's China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meier. If you have any feedback on the show or have something you'd like to see us cover, send us an email at chinainfocus@ntd.com. We'd love to hear from you. Round-the-clock original news coverage, visit us at ntd.com or download our NTD app. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow.